This zine is gonna change the world. Okay, I wish that were true. But the truth is, with your help, this can help move us closer to a kinder, more compassionate world for the animals. I made this zine for animal activists and vegans to have on hand and pass out to restaurants and cafes that are vegan unfriendly, hoping to nudge them closer to incorporating more vegan items into their menu. It's so simple to make. I have all of it linked in the description below. It's made out of a single A4 piece of paper with a single snip out of it. This can make a big difference. The more vegan options are available in a city, the easier it is to go vegan and the faster we can move towards a world that doesn't require so much animal suffering. You can watch to see the process of how I made this, and if you want to do something similar, you'll see just how easy it was. I care a lot about animals, and I care a lot about food. So I've been thinking about how to best encourage restaurants to incorporate more vegan dishes, but not in a way that's like super loud and protesty, but maybe in a softer, more personal type of way. So that's what I'm doing in this video. I want to make a zine that speaks to the antispeciesist cause, but also tells restaurants like all the perks that come with having vegan options. That's a whole new population of people that you're tapping into, right? And sometimes there's only like a tiny swap that's required to turn a vegetarian or non-vegan dish into something vegan. Right now, with the egg prices being so high, we should be talking about how it's probably the perfect time to transition to a vegan alternative. You know, just egg, and there's other cheaper versions of it. And that's just like one point among many. So I don't know exactly what the zine is gonna look like yet, but I'm gonna figure that out in this video. And by the end, I wanna have something that you could print out if you want to and hand it out when the time is right. Hopefully it might change a menu one day or even just a mind. By the way, hi, I'm Manar. It's my dream to make fighting for the animals my full-time job. So if you want to support me in that mission or join my activism focused book club, a link to my Patreon is in the description below. There are a ton of different zine formats that you can use, but the one I'm choosing is just made of a simple A4 paper, printer paper, to make it as accessible as possible for people who want to print it. And then you fold it in a certain way to make 8 pages. So I brainstormed 8 sections. It'll start with a title that won't make the restaurant roll their eyes. I want them to be excited when they get it. So I picked the title, "We Love Your Food." And then the subtitle is going to be something about how to make it more inclusive. Really rough, but I just wanted to get a good idea of what the layout would look like. So cover, and then pages 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and then the back cover. Don't mind all my ink stains. That's what fountain pens will do too. I want it to be simple. I want it to be black and white so that it's not required to print in color. So again, to make it as accessible as humanly possible. I keep thinking about this quote from this book, Braiding Sweetgrass, that we're reading this month for my activism focused book club, where she says, "To be heard, you must speak the language of the one you want to listen." And I've been adopting that, trying to adopt that in everything that I do, including this zine. So I'm trying to approach this from more of a profit-driven perspective, because that's usually what restaurants care the most about. But secretly, deep down, we know what it's really about. You know, even if it gets just one dish on one menu, that's a win. Before I brainstorm, I want to talk about why this matters, because it seems so small. Like, okay, adding a single vegan dish, how's that going to make a big difference? Like, it's still going to be a bunch of meat eaters. They probably will ignore the dish, right? Every time someone chooses a vegan dish, whether that be a meat eater, a vegetarian, or a vegan, that's one less dish that required an animal to suffer. And it's small, but it adds up over time. And it sends out a signal to the restaurants, because they track what gets sold and what doesn't. And if they see that there is a demand for this item, they'll see maybe we need to add more like it. Slowly, it affects food chains and the conversations being had and more. Slowly it might shift what normal is to us and lower demand for animal products. That's why I like to, if I ever go to a cafe, like there's this really cute cafe in San Diego here, it's one of my favorites, and they have a big dessert selection, but they don't have a single vegan option. I like to just ask whenever I'm there, "Hey, are you guys planning on incorporating anything vegan to the menu?" Not because I think it's actually going to make a difference off the bat. At least if they hear the word enough, they'll see, okay, there is a demand for it. Maybe this is like untapped potential we have here. Thankfully, I live in San Diego, where there are a ton of delicious vegan options, but that wasn't always the case. Like, I first cut out animal products in the Middle East, and there was not a single vegan restaurant over there. That was 10 years ago. And I got sick of eating the same Arab food every single time I went out. Hummus, falafel, baba ghanoush. So I get the struggle, and I know most people don't live in cities that have such easily accessible vegan options. So maybe slowly we can all work together to change that. So while I brainstorm what I want the zine to contain, I want to talk about the history of zines for a sec. If you don't know what a zine is, it's short for magazine, and it's self-published, small circulation booklet that's usually handmade and printed independently, often by folding or stapling regular sheets of paper. I love them because they're a rejection of the idea that you need a publisher's permission to make and distribute something of your own. And the possibilities are endless. I've seen zines of all kinds. Like, some people use it to publish their poetry or their art, or make guides, or like lyric inspired. The last one that I saw in person was actually in a local library here, and it was about what native plants to plant to attract butterflies to your garden. So they've always been about self-expression, protest, and community. If it matters to you, it could be made into a zine. It doesn't matter if anyone else is talking about it. That's what is so cool. And it's also an art form that is grounded in resistance and activism. They first started popping up in the 1930s and 40s in sci-fi fan circles. So fans would make homemade magazines to share ideas and stories and critiques, basically creating like the internet before the internet. The oldest queer zine can actually be tracked back to 1947. It was called Vice Versa, and it was published in LA by the pen name Lisa Ben, which you could probably guess what the anagram of that is. It was typed on a typewriter, it was hand distributed in secret, and it included everything from poetry to essays to fiction and commentary, all written and curated by Lisa herself. And then in the 70s and 80s, they became a tool of punk culture, especially in the UK and the US. They were loud, political, and very anti-establishment, oftentimes made with scissors, glue, and photocopiers. And in the 1990s, there was another huge resurgence of zines. It was during the Riot Girl movement, which was an underground punk feminist movement. It caused feminist punk zines to explode. It created a space for women, for queer folks, and for other marginalized voices to just talk about politics, gender, sex, and resistance without having to ask for permission. Nowadays, zines still exist and there is a culture around them, maybe less so than how it was in the 70s and 80s, but I feel like there's a little bit of a resurgence happening. Maybe that's just my algorithm because I do subscribe to a lot of art pages and follow a lot of art pages on Instagram. But I feel like people are talking about it more and more, and there's zines events happening even locally. So yeah, I think this art form is here to stay forever. It's been a few days. I did finish the zine. I'm just working on a few sketches that I want to add to it just to liven it up a little bit, and then I'm done. I think the hardest part about this zine is going to be trying to figure out what print settings to tell people to use. I've never done this before, and I don't have a printer, so in a bit I'm going to go to Staples and just waste a lot of paper trying to figure that out. And then besides that, all I have to do is set up this little how-to guide for how to use the zine. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really useful. Where's my little template? Where's my template? Where is it? Oh, here. This is so small, like, just you can fit like 10 in a pocket or in a purse or something. It's just a simple little way to make a tiny bit of a difference. If you walk into a restaurant and you have one of these on you and you don't feel like they have enough options, you just hand them over. And then I also have some like scripts for people who feel a little bit anxious doing this. Yeah, gonna be sketching now. Just some sandwiches and bowls and vegan goodness. So it's supposed to be like really messy, just to add a little something to a couple of the pages. I'm also really excited because I'm going to my first vegan street activism training. They're starting up Anonymous for the Voiceless in San Diego, and I really want to join. I've been itching to try it for many years now and just never actually committed to it. So I'm happy to finally have taken the steps to do that. I'll go in a second, as soon as I finish my plant-based meal. Best of the best. Today we're having, I'm not even sure what it is, just deliciousness. Fried rice, I think, with lots of veggies, some soy curls.
The fastest your heart should beat in a minute.
I'm going. I swear I'm going. As soon as I finish this meal. Let's go. Awesome, but the fonts are a little bit small, so I'm going to increase that a little bit on all the pages. Yeah, I think I'm going to increase that table size too. But besides that, it's looking pretty good. So good. I finished up the zine, but I was in such a rush. I didn't go and grab coffee. Now all the coffee shops are closed. Things are too free animals. I just got back from my vegan street outreach. That was awesome. I can't wait to go and actually start talking to people, seeing what comes up, developing that skill. You know, it's one thing to post on social media, it's a whole other thing to train that muscle of keeping an open mind and open dialogue, but holding people accountable. Excited to start developing that. Got all these guys printed out, just gotta fold them up. I'm working on my instruction manual as we speak with my vegan plant-based meal delivery dinner. Not to briefly break down each section, we really want to try your food, but we can't. A short guide for restaurants ready to serve more people, reduce harm, and grow their business by including more vegan options. We'd be so grateful. And then I have a what's in it for you page. We know that restaurants are driven by profit, so I really tried to speak to that. And I'm not even lying. I mean, this is a population that's huge and it's untapped potential. Vegans are growing every single day. And I thought it would be a good idea to include a free promo shout out. So I said if they tag me, I'd love to shout them out. It shows that their actions are appreciated and that there is an audience watching. And also the growing demand section, which shows a little bit more statistics on how the population is growing every day, which means it would be a very smart business move to get on that trend right now. And then I also left a little blank space over here for any custom stats to include. Like I personally am gonna go in here and I'll write down the San Diego Vegan Facebook group has 13,000 members, you know, that's nothing to scoff at. And then the next page is simple swaps. A lot of the times meals already exist on the menu that would be easily made vegan with such a simple swap, like changing out dairy mayo for vegan mayo. I mean, they taste exactly the same, right? Or changing out the chicken broth or a beef broth for a veggie broth. And then I really harped on the egg part because we know that the prices on those have been crazy and they're not happy about that. So I did mention just egg for scramble or flax chia eggs for baking and some other things. And then I also listed some vegan dishes that work anywhere. Definitely omitted the falafel because I am so sick of that being the only vegan option. And then the next page is why it matters. This is speaks a little bit more to why vegans care and how it affects animals, how it affects the environment, and so on. And then what happens when they do it. Here I have the little shout out info and a little bit more. Finally, we have the thank you page with my goofy little cow and a plea for them to stop upcharging on the alt milks. God damn, I'm sick of paying $8 for a latte. I'll still do it, but you know, just in case, a little PS for them. I know there have been many times where I'm at a restaurant and I'm wishing that they had more vegan options, and I wished even more that I'd be able to communicate that with whoever's in charge of the menu, but I didn't really know how to. I think this is such a good, easy, effective tool to communicate that. You're at this place, you were talking to the cashier, the waiter, and you're like, hey, I'm here all the time, or like, I love this place, or I've heard great things, but unfortunately there's nothing really here for me to try, or there's very few items. Do you mind passing this over to the owner of the restaurant or whoever's in charge of the menu? It's just a short guide on why it would be a smart move to incorporate more vegan items and how to do that. No pressure, I would just really appreciate it. That's kind of how I envision this happening. The no pressure part is optional since I know we actually want to be like, take the zine, motherfucker. If you'd like to download and print this zine for yourself, I included all of that in the description below. It's for free and a guide as well on how exactly to fold this. I'm personally gonna have a handful of these in my purse at all times. If you do end up passing this out, please do tag me. That would make my entire day. I would love to see it and shout you out as well for making a little bit of a difference. You know, activism doesn't always have to be so loud. It just has to be sincere. Small steps, small actions matter, and they always have. Anyway, I have so many other ideas for little ways to sprinkle some activism into your life, like stickers and ebooks and whatnot. So let me know what you would like to see the most, or if you've made something like this before, or if you're inspired to make something like this, do tell me about it. I would love to hear it. Hope to see one of these zines in a restaurant one day. Okay, thank you for caring. Thank you for watching. See you next time.